You are watching the world 24/7 on the NDTV network. I'm Parmeshwar Bawa. Let's begin with the top stories you need to know. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has said Europe must do the heavy lifting in ensuring a durable peace deal between Russia and Ukraine, but added that the effort must have strong US backing at the Ukraine summit in London. UK, France and Ukraine agreed to work on a ceasefire plan to present to the United States following the spat between Zelensky and Donald Trump. JD Vance faces pro-Ukraine protests during his ski holiday in Vermont after the unprecedented Oval Office clash with the Ukrainian president. JD was greeted by protesters holding pro-Ukraine signs, some calling him a traitor and asking him to go ski in Russia instead. Israel has halted aid deliveries to Gaza after the first phase of a US negotiated ceasefire deal expired, raising fears of a resumption in fighting. A high-level Belgian delegation led by Princess Astrid, a member of the ruling monarch's family, is in India for a week to strengthen trade ties. Do note that 10% of India-EU trade is with Belgium. India and Bhutan's economic ties get a new boost with Assam hosting a key summit where Bhutan's Galefu Mindfulness City project emerged as a major focus, seen as a game changer for the region. Bitcoin skyrockets to over $95,000 after Donald Trump announces a big US crypto reserve move. Conan O'Brien is hosting the 97th Academy Awards in Los Angeles. Conclave, Honora and Wicked have picked up some awards so far.
Good, Andrew. Looking good, buddy.
Our big focus, European countries have vowed to increase defence spending at a UK-hosted summit on Sunday, as Britain's Prime Minister called for a coalition of the willing to defend Ukraine after US Kyiv talks imploded. Now, following Friday's meltdown between US President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Europe is forced to confront a worst-case scenario of facing Russia alone, as some analysts argue. Now, the continent's leaders are scrambling to craft a peace plan for Ukraine, even as they acknowledge that US involvement remains critical for any deal. But the UK, France and Ukraine have agreed to work on a ceasefire plan to present to the United States following the spat between Zelensky and Trump. For a quick comment on the matter, we have with us Daniel Block, Senior Editor, Foreign Affairs and a contributing editor at the Washington Daily, live from Washington, D.C. at the moment. Daniel, thanks so much for making time for us. This gathering of European powers in London, do you believe it's enough to shift the diplomatic dial, or has the United States made up its mind to go at it alone on finding a ceasefire in Ukraine?
I mean, we're going to see is the short answer. The long answer is, I think what European leaders have quickly realized is that Zelensky and Trump cannot interact directly, that that's not going to be an effective way for Ukraine to get continued aid and support from the United States. After the meeting happened and it blew up, there was talk that Ukraine needed to appoint an envoy or somebody who could interface directly with Trump or Washington.
Right.
And it seems like European leaders are trying to take on that role themselves. And we're going to find out whether that's enough.
Daniel, the UK and France have already said that they would be willing to put boots on the ground in Ukraine to help deter Russian aggression. How do you see this playing out in the coming few weeks?
I would be surprised if we see boots on the ground in the coming 2 weeks. But I mean, the fact that they're saying that really tells you how significant they view this as and how much of a priority Ukraine is to European security. For a while, having NATO boots on the ground in Ukraine was completely unthinkable. It was something that was beyond the pale. It was seen as a way to begin a third world war. But the fact that they're suggesting that they might be willing to do it now suggests that they're willing to go there. They're willing to go that far. It also suggests that they really don't trust the United States to act as Ukraine's guarantor anymore, that they think the United States may actually cut off aid. And that in that case, the only way to perhaps protect Ukraine, to help it fight off Russia, to keep it as an independent sovereign country would be to get involved more directly, to actually put troops on the ground. It may also suggest that they don't take NATO as seriously as they did before. Part of the fear with having European boots on the ground earlier was that if Russia was firing at European troops that were part of a NATO member country, the United States itself would get directly involved, and you'd have a direct confrontation between two nuclear armed states. But if they don't think that Trump is serious about invoking Article 5 of NATO, which is the collective defense mechanism, that he's not actually going to put American troops in the line of fire or get more directly involved, then maybe they perhaps feel more comfortable sending their own troops to Ukraine because they're not worried about it escalating in the same way.
Well, let's see how this plays out. Daniel, thanks so much. We will, of course, revert to you for regular updates. But at the Ukraine summit in London, European leaders have agreed that they must spend more on defense to show Trump the continent can protect itself. And with many nations struggling with already stretched public finances, the European Commission president has suggested the bloc could ease its rules around debt. Now, Keir Starmer, who is also announced a deal allowing Ukraine to use £1.6 billion of UK export finance to buy more than 5,000 air defense missiles, has said Europe must do the heavy lifting in securing peace in Ukraine. NDTV's Ollie Barrett joins us with the latest from London. Listen in.
Keir Starmer says that countries gathered here have agreed that they need to keep arming Ukraine while the conflict continues, keep economic pressure on Russia, but that they also need to work on their preparations for helping out in the event of a peace deal, with making sure that that peace can be sustainable. Keir Starmer reiterating that the UK will put boots on the ground, he says, and planes in the air to help police any such peace deal. And he says that other countries are now working with him to decide what they could do in the event of such a scenario as well. He insists that the countries here are unified in their views when it comes to approaching Ukraine, but also needing to up their own defence capabilities as well. And Keir Starmer, with the summit concluding at Lancaster House in London behind me, insisting that Washington remains, he says, a reliable ally. The context, of course, the backdrop for this summit has been those difficult talks in Washington last week between Volodymyr Zelensky and Donald Trump and his Vice President J.D. Vance. The idea is that the UK and other countries here can encourage Ukraine and the US to get back round a table and start talking again about a peace deal, about a minerals deal of the type that was supposed to be signed in Washington last week. The UK, France, Ukraine and a number of other countries are also going to work on a peace plan that they say can be presented to Donald Trump as a possible way forward out of this crisis. But despite the leaders being in agreement about a lot here in London today, there is also a lot that divides European countries about exactly how to move forward. But Keir Starmer hoping that he can become that bridge between European countries and the White House. Ollie Barrett, NDTV, London.
By the way, J.D. Vance faced pro-Ukraine protests during his ski holiday in Vermont after the unprecedented Oval Office clash with the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. J.D. was greeted by protesters holding pro-Ukraine signs, some calling him a traitor and asking him to go ski in Russia instead. Listen in.
He is recreating while thousands of people are losing their jobs, losing their health care, losing their funding.
This is a group of people who has always been supportive of standing with Ukraine. However, I think yesterday's performance at the White House has probably galvanized even more people to come out today.
After what he did yesterday, he crossed the line.
Then, after the meeting yesterday with Zelensky, I feel like all of America should be out here protesting.
Well, let's switch tracks now. Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal will be in Washington to meet key officials of the U.S. administration weeks after Prime Minister Modi and U.S. President Donald Trump decided on a bilateral trade agreement. But during this visit, Piyush Goyal is set to meet the United States trade representatives and U.S. Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick, among other officials. In fact, I must also inform you that Mr. Goyal will be in America till the 6th of March. This as Washington had threatened to slap reciprocal tariffs on countries including India within a month. My colleague Mohammad Ghazali has been tracking the finer details for us. He joins us live at the moment. Ghazali, take us through Piyush Goyal's plans. Are we likely to seek exemption from reciprocal tariffs, give bigger market access through the trade deal? What's the plan of action?
See, Parmeshwar, we just saw a meeting of Piyush Goyal with the Trade and Commerce Minister from UK just last week. And this meeting with the US Trade Minister is going to be very important, very significant due to the fact that this is going to be the first meet after Donald Trump and Prime Minister Modi met last month. And this is going to be the first interaction between the two ministers. Now, what will be announced? Will there be any major announcement or not? That is very unsure as of now. But certainly, when Prime Minister Modi and President Trump met, they had said that perhaps the first 100 days or first outline of how India and US will get into bilateral trade, the finer details have to be drafted, the finer details have to be discussed with the minister, and that is why Piyush Goyal is going to be there. And certainly the trade tariff or the reciprocal tariff threat, which Mr. Trump had been issuing or had issued with an executive order last month, will be discussed prominently in this meeting between Piyush Goyal and his counterpart in the United States.
Ghazali, as always, thanks so much for joining us with the lowdown. In other news, a high-level Belgian delegation led by Princess Astrid is in India till the 8th of March to boost trade and diplomatic ties. Now, their program is set to include expansion of trade ties in domains like pharmaceuticals, logistics, defense, construction, as well as clean technologies. And official meetings of the Belgian delegation are scheduled with our Prime Minister as well, and also with our Defense Minister and External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar. By the way, in case you didn't know, Belgium's trade with India is traditionally dominated by the diamond sector, and this delegation is accompanied by a major economic mission with 36 companies and 4 official organizations as well. Also, you must note that as far as our trade is concerned, that 10% of India-EU trade is with Belgium. The other big story we're tracking on NDTV, Israel halted aid deliveries to Gaza after the first phase of a US negotiated ceasefire deal expired, raising fears of a resumption in fighting. Israeli officials said Hamas had rejected an extension backed by Washington that would require the release of half of the remaining hostages before further negotiations. Hamas, meanwhile, accused Israel of violating the original agreement. Spurred by Donald Trump's much criticized proposal to effectively take over Gaza, Arab nations have ramped up efforts to resolve the war. But here's what Israel's Netanyahu had to say.
Israel has decided to stop letting goods and supplies into Gaza, something we've done for the past 42 days. We've done that because Hamas steals the supplies and prevents the people of Gaza from getting them. It uses these supplies to finance its terror machine, which is aimed directly at Israel and our civilians, and this we cannot accept. We will take further steps if Hamas continues to hold our hostages. And throughout this, Israel knows that America and President Trump have our back. Thank you again, President Trump. Thank you for all you're doing to return our hostages, bolster our security, and provide a future of prosperity and peace for all the peoples of the Middle East.
Ghazali is with us for a quick update as well. Ghazali, take us to the current state of affairs.
See, the Egypt and Qatar, both the mediators, have been trying to assure Israel that perhaps the second stage of the ceasefire negotiations should continue. And why this entire crisis has developed? Because Israel wanted the first stage of ceasefire to extend. The first stage of ceasefire expired yesterday, and both Hamas and other mediators wanted to get into the second stage of negotiations, but Israel resisted it, saying that we want to extend the first stage of ceasefire. That exactly means that Israel wanted Hamas to release more hostages without any assurances which are part of the original ceasefire deal. The part of the original ceasefire deal was that Israel will start gradually withdrawing from the Gaza territory, from the Gaza Strip, but that is not happening. And time and again, it has been reported over multiple Western media, by Israeli media as well, that how Israel continues with its attack in the Gaza Strip. Even yesterday, around 6 people were killed in an aerial strike. So on one side, Israel claims that Hamas is reneging on the ceasefire deal, but on the other hand, it also claims that it is getting as many arms and ammunition, which was put on hold by the previous Biden administration and now has been released by Trump. So certainly, Israel wants that Hamas should follow the new ceasefire deal or the negotiations drafted by the Trump administration, and wants all the hostages to be released at once. And that is when it will whether it will withdraw from the Gaza Strip or not has not yet been announced by Israel, but it certainly says that it has halted all the entry of relief material into Gaza Strip.
Thanks so much, Ghazali, for joining us with the crucial developments. Well, in other news, the cryptocurrency market roared into March with a rally, recouping some of the losses from the asset class's worst month since 2022, after US President Donald Trump once again talked up his plan for a strategic crypto reserve. Donald Trump has revealed the names of 5 cryptocurrencies that he says he'd like to be included in a new strategic reserve to make the United States the crypto capital of the world. The market prices of the 5 coins that the US president named all swiftly jumped after the announcement, but you must note that it is unclear how the new stockpile will work. More information is expected on Friday, when Donald Trump plans to host the first crypto summit at the White House. News and updates continue in a moment, right after this very short break. Don't go anywhere. Well, now to our special focus on the India-Bhutan economic ties through Assam that has taken a key step forward in the Assam's Infrastructure and Investment Summit in Guwahati, where Bhutan emerged as a key partner nation, taking forward the relationship beyond being a launchpad of India's Neighbourhood First policy to being a key partner in Bhutan's Mindfulness City project, where Bhutan plans to attract global investors in a new international city like Singapore that Bhutan plans to build just across the border with Assam. My colleague Ratnadeep Chaudhary reports.
This key session on India-Bhutan economic cooperation earlier this week at the Advantage Assam, Assam's Infrastructure and Investment Summit in Guwahati, has set the tone for taking India's Neighbourhood First policy many steps forward. Bhutan has already pitched the Gelefu Mindfulness City, the 2,500 square kilometer zero carbon city being built, which is touted to be the new Singapore of Southeast Asia, is just 65 kilometers away from Assam's Kokrajhar. India is laying a new rail link between Guwahati and Gelefu.
For Bhutan and India, this is a time-tested, exemplary relationship that we have been sharing over the years, and that is largely due to the leadership of our enlightened monarchs. So, yeah. So therefore, I think at the Gelefu Mindfulness City, that's a transformative journey again envisioned by our monarch, so which is envisioned to benefit both the Bhutan and the people in Assam and largely the region.
The Inland Waterways Terminal at Assam's Jogighopa will be complementing Gelefu Mindfulness City's broader vision. Assam will also prioritize the development of a Special Economic Zone or SEZ synchronized with the Gelefu Mindfulness City project.
We will bring power from Bhutan because they have a common boundary with Bhutan, and they have a need of power and they have a need of clean power. And so I think this will really be a game changer in terms of how power can be produced in Bhutan.
The new possibilities of India-Bhutan economic ties and its mirroring in Assam is also being keenly watched by the Western world, including the European Union.
EU Commission, their representative is very much interested to know the Gelefu and what mirror image we want to do in Assam. So that is one of their deliberation point. That suppose at what level Gelefu will be developed. Suppose Gelefu will be developed to the level of Singapore.
India and Bhutan has a deep-rooted shared partnership. The first bilateral trade agreement was signed in 1972 between the two countries and revised in 2016. Bilateral trade has only tripled, and now India accounts for over 73% of Bhutan's total trade. And with the buzz around Bhutan's mindfulness city, there is a fresh focus on the India-Bhutan economic relations through Assam. In Guwahati, Ratndeep Chaudhary for NDTV.
Well, switching tracks, Syria's new leaders announced a committee to draft a transitional constitution as the country rebuilds following the overthrow of the Assad regime. Interim President Ahmad al-Shara's past instinct to eliminate his rivals will be tested given the diverse and divided country he now governs. And finally, American space startup Firefly has become the second ever private firm to soft land on the moon. The NASA-funded Blue Ghost holds 10 experiments. The space agency hopes Blue Ghost and other commercial probes, including another lander arriving this week, will help it answer questions about the lunar environment in preparation for its planned astronaut missions later this decade. But the back-to-back landings are part of a surge in private space exploration that analysts have said represents the foundations of a lunar economy. We leave you with Pallav Bagla's report.
History has been created in lunar landings. The first commercial company to successfully land on the moon happened with a mission called Blue Ghost. It has been launched by Firefly Aerospace, a company in America. Till now, all the missions that have successfully landed on the moon have been government missions. For the first time, a commercial space company has successfully landed on the lunar surface. Blue Ghost circled the moon for a long time and then successfully landed today. It is carrying 10 instruments which will do various scientific work on the moon. And like India's Chandrayaan-3's Vikram lander, it will also work for 14 Earth days on the moon, which is one lunar day. A great day for lunar exploration. This now opens the door for commercial companies to send many more missions to the moon. In the future, many people hope to do mining on the moon surface and send the minerals back from the moon to Earth. But whatever be it, a successful commercial landing on the moon is a big achievement, and lunar scientists are celebrating that. At IIT Hyderabad, in Hyderabad, Pallav Bagla for NDTV.